everyone. This is Pam Torrey from Ingage, and you're listening to the Ingage podcast. We know tech is changing the way people market and sell now more than ever. And on this show, I sit down with sales and marketing thought leaders and experts to learn how you can create, share, and measure your way to success. We're here with Madison Farrell, Great Day Improvement's culture and internal communication manager, who's here to give us a fresh take on scaling your business from the people's perspective and share her expertise on keeping your team connected both on the road and in the office. Thanks for joining us today, Madison.
Thanks for having me, Pam. I'm super excited about this.
Yeah, we're really excited to have you because you are a different persona than we usually have on the podcast. Because normally we have sales and marketing leaders or business owners or like people who do sales training. Or we've got people who are like actually in the field selling, but we don't usually have someone on to talk about like how do you actually help make the office and the experience of being an employee better. So I'm really excited to have you here.
Awesome.
So,
Yeah, let's dive into it.
so I know you started with Great Day back in 2014, and the company was in a very different place then. It was much smaller, and you were actually in a completely different role. So,
Yep,
can you give our listeners an overview of your background and how it brought you here to this role today?
absolutely. So I started back in 2014, like you said. I started as a event coordinator for the Cleveland patio enclosure Sanic window branch. So
Fantastic. I actually went to college in Cleveland, and my family lives there, so I know the area very well, and
yeah,
it's great.
so started with that. And I was it was 19. I was This was my first like real job, going into an office, the whole nine. And I started to find my passion, started to find that I loved doing the events and I was good at it. And I started to grow that. And as it grew, I had a staff underneath me. I had more than one branch that I was looking over the events. And through that, I ended up developing what was the start of the patio enclosures and stand up windows event manual, and really trying to figure out how do we duplicate these processes and this department to our other locations. Um, so obviously, COVID happened and my entire job disappeared in a day. And I transferred over to the corporate marketing side of the business where I was able to kind of dive into um, ad proofing, um, and started our online chat department for patio enclosures and stand windows and built that up to pass it on to the call center where it is today. And then I started to kind of dive into I want to do more here. I want to help people. And we'll dive into it, I'm sure, later on, why I wanted to go this route. But eventually moved into the culture and internal communication side of the business.
Yeah, I don't think people generally realize like how much face time you get with the world doing events. That you have to be able to interact with literally anybody because you don't know who's going to come up to your booth. You don't know who's going to be working on the administrative side at that event. It really gives you a lot of people skills.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And when you see all the other vendors regularly, I mean, at one point there was a joke, we see each other more than we see our real friends and family.
Oh, yeah.
When you're at these events every single weekend.
Mhm.
But through that, you start to build a really nice network where you can lean on people, share frustrations, share accomplishments. Um, and really, if it wasn't for that network that I built in the beginning, even with other brands, um, I don't know if I would have made it through to the other side.
So you really have had a lot of growth in your career over the last 10 years at Great Day. I'm curious to know how you navigated all of the shifts in your role and in your responsibilities and even in your department and what motivated you to embrace these new opportunities as they came along.
So let's take a step back to 2014. That was the first real job. The one where you like get benefits and 40 hours, and you start thinking about the car you're gonna buy next, that you don't have to worry about it breaking down every time you get behind the wheel, kind of thing. And you're so excited about it, and then quickly you get humbled at one point or another. Whether you're 19, 20, early 20s, whatever it may be, eventually life humbles you and it humbles you fast. And growth can be painful. It can be exciting, challenging, draining, all of these crazy emotions all at once. And definitely being that young, I did not know how to handle all of those emotions. um, so in the beginning, I won't lie, I cried a lot. I
That's part
cried
of
a
it.
lot.
Yeah.
And I will not hide that. It's just kind of grew me into who I am today. Um, but I will say through all this growth, I didn't know what I was chasing, but I knew I wasn't stopping.
Mm.
Um, I made sure that what I was doing was exciting for me. It was energizing. So in the moments where you're feeling drained or frustrated or anything like that, um, there was a foundation. But beyond that, I eventually found my support system here within Great Day.
Mm.
Whether it's, through team members or leadership, I found support through many facets of the business. And, just like being at an event or at a show, you're going around talking to everybody. I would do the same thing and go to our corporate office and walk around and talk to everybody.
Mhm.
Um, and so I found a really great support system. And a handful of those leaders are still with Great Day today. So when we look at, you know, handling the growth on my own internally, I would say that I had to figure out what my triggers were to kind of get all those feelings and notice when they were happening and hold myself accountable that, I'm not mad at this meeting or mad at this person or this email, that I have all these feelings because I'm going through growth and it will be okay.
Mhm. Yeah, I think
Um,
that's something we overlook a lot of the time is like having a professional support system, whether that is in your office, at your company, or whether it's like a mentor relationship that you have or a peer group that you have. It can be really validating to hear from somebody who's maybe been there before or somebody who is currently in the same boat as you that like yes, you are a special person, but like this is not a special situation. Like everybody else has been dealing with this, especially like in your early 20s, like things are supposed to be bad, like they're supposed to be chaotic. And the fact that you were going through like all of this career growth at the same time as that, like it's a lot.
and kind of, I mean, going off of that, this support system I had, like I said, I cried a lot. Like I was a pain in the butt. I will admit it at times. I was surrounded with such great leaders that saw something in me that didn't give up on me. And because of that, I've now been exposed to so many facets of the business,
Mhm.
um, that, now I have a lot of knowledge, thankfully, but it's because they saw something in me and decided I was worth the headache at times. Um, I
So I
still
want
performed. Don't get me wrong there. I still had great performance numbers.
Well, so I want
But
to kind of play off of that leadership thing because you're talking about how like leadership has been really important in your growth, but also like I look at Great Day, I look at the difference between the business that you guys were running in 2014 and where you are today in 2024, and it is night and day. You went from this small family oriented company to this like massive entity that is sort of, taking over in home improvement. And I'm wondering because I've heard such great things about the way that you guys operate as a business. How have you managed to maintain that family feel with this huge growth? And specifically, what role does leadership play? What role has leadership played in your time there with this growth, but also the larger team?
absolutely, I definitely would. I mean, leadership is everything in this. And the focus has always been on culture, communication. Who are we? What are our values? And that's always come from our leadership team. It's not something I could single-handedly crusade or drive or anything like that. I mean, the the leadership team noticed the importance, noticed what we needed to do and truly just treat people like people, and so without their drive, I mean, my job position obviously just wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
But the one thing that we kind of joke about, does hold true is I've grown up here. Like I mentioned before, I'm a native speaker to Great Day when it comes to communication and words we use and where we were and now where we are. Um, And there's a handful of us that are still here back when we had 12 locations. I mean, now we're over 280 locations, so just a lot of growth in a short period of time. But throughout all of that, the great day leadership team didn't put the culture of people, anything like that on the back end.
Mm.
Um, and the nice thing about my role, as well as other HR people here at Great Day, we're able to kind of be that chain to connect. What leadership says is happening, what they want to happen, what they preach and stand by, and what is Great Day compared to what's going on behind the curtain, so to speak. And if we need to pivot and focus attention, um, the open lines of communication have just been they're just amazing to help keep that going.
Yeah, I'm reminded of something. We have a mutual friend, Brianna Hetherington from Altruistic Advisory, and I've done some stuff with her before on webinars specifically talking about company culture. And she always really emphasizes that if your leadership is not practicing what they preach, you are not going to foster that culture across locations. And I can only imagine the challenge that you are dealing with having hundreds of locations, thousands of employees. So I want to dig into this a little bit because I manage a fully remote team. I have 9 team members, plus I work with, our company of 40 some odd employees across the country. And just with a team of that size, I feel like I know the struggles of trying to foster employee engagement across a remote team. You have hundreds of locations, thousands of employees. Some of them are on the road regularly, some of them work in the office. How do you balance fostering company culture and employee engagement without feeling like you're mandating it, without being like Big Brother forcing employee engagement down everyone's throats? Are there any strategies that work for you as you are trying to achieve healthy employee engagement?
So, well, first things first, it has to start at the top and trickle down, just like everything else. So when it comes to engagement and communication, um, w- great day leadership absolutely helps distribute that, helps build the hype, the
Mm.
importance,
We love the
of all of
cheerleading,
that.
the
Yes,
cheerleading of the new
yeah,
policies, of the
yes.
culture that we're trying to foster.
Yes, but you want your content and to be interesting first and foremost, obviously. But
Here's
if you
hoping.
think if you think about it, we have manufacturing employees, we have installers, we have desk employees, we have, I mean, completely wide variety of where people are. Sales, they're on the road, the whole nine. Um, so we need to have different communication channels that are able to reach those employees. Not every employee here has a Teams account that can see those messages come through and stuff, and some are texting, some prefer email, some. So we need to go those different channels so that we can reach as many people as possible. um, and understanding that we can't force anyone to engage or to enjoy the content. We need to adapt and tailor our content and messaging as to what matters to the team.
Mm. This
If you
almost feels
force
like
anything, you're not
marketing.
going to get your buy-in.
Yeah, this feels like marketing. This feels like my job. Uh,
Side of it.
yeah, yeah. This feels like because we talk on the marketing side about having a multi-channel approach to reaching customers. You have to be where the customer is, and yeah, you. I didn't even think about the fact that you have some employees who probably never log into Teams.
Yeah.
They're never there because it's not relevant to their role. And how do you reach that employee compared to somebody who's at their desk all day and is on Teams constantly?
And even taking it one step further, when we get into our manufacturing facilities, we have both Spanish and English speakers. So then we need to tailor the messaging in different languages and all of that. So definitely a team effort on everyone's end. But yeah, it just like marketing, just internally.
Yeah, it's just meeting people where they are.
Yeah.
Um, I so I want to talk a little bit about technology because that's our special area of interest here at Engage. We are a tech company. We partner with a lot of tech companies. We believe that tech stacks and effective implementation of technology at companies really does help them to scale. But we also know that getting buy-in from employees to use the technology that you have procured and spent a lot of time setting up can be very challenging. So I'm curious about any advice you would have for leaders who are trying to introduce new tools and evaluate their effectiveness, especially with these big teams. Like you were just talking about having things in multiple languages, you've got employees working in all different kinds of functions. Like, how do you approach implementing a tech solution?
So let's take, just because I'm in the thick of it right now with company wide pulse surveys. Let's use that as an example, because I believe that is a huge piece of tech that is such a great asset. But it has to be done correctly. So for the surveys, obviously you need your buy-in trickle down from the top, like we've said before. But really, you're going to get your buy-in from employees through your follow through, through your communication through it. Um, we can run surveys all year round, and if we don't act upon it or step up to the plate when asked through those surveys and acknowledge, we heard you about this, that, and the other. Here's what we're going to do to improve it. If you don't communicate that, the reasoning and why we need that engagement, what's the point of them filling it out? I mean,
That's so
really.
valid. Yeah. Yeah, I was just at a conference last week, and it was a tech conference, and they kept talking about you need to explain the why behind all the things that you're introducing, and it sounds like you're explaining the why, but also taking it a step further. It's like a yes and. You're explaining why you're doing this, but also showing that you listen to them.
And that's where a lot of that's the make or break when it comes to engagement surveys, pulse surveys, anything like that. Um, if you don't act upon it, and then I say, brag about it to your employees. This is what we're doing. Over communicate that. Let them make sure that they all know this is in response because you helped us.
Mhm.
You were honest and we appreciate it. And that will get you more buy-in. So the next time your participation rate's higher, through all of it.
Mhm. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. We talk often with one of our sales coaching partners talks about finding the mayor of your office and having that person like getting that person on board, and then they'll get everybody else on board. But I imagine that finding the mayor in 280 plus locations is going to be a little challenging. And so you sort of have to use some different tactics besides just getting the buy-in of the influencer.
Surprisingly, our surveys actually give us that data.
Ooh, they do?
We get a list of influencers that are not necessarily in leadership from that. So
That is
super helpful.
fascinating. Oh, okay. So everybody, if you want to know who the mayor of your company is, who that like influential team member is, you got to get that survey out. Survey says it will tell you. It will tell you who that person is. That's great to know because we tell our customers all the time, you've got to figure out like who on your team is the one who's going to get everybody else bought in. And if they don't know, you could just survey everybody.
Yeah, that's one great data point from our surveys that we get is a list of just key influencers throughout all the brands.
That is fantastic to know. I'm stealing that. I'm stealing that and going to be putting that out far and wide that you can get that information through a survey.
There you go.
Well, Madison, before you leave us, we are, closing out the year and we are looking ahead into 2025. And I always make everybody answer one question if they come onto this podcast. And it is, what is one trend that you think business owners and leaders should be focused on as we head into the new year?
I mean, people. Develop your people, help your people grow. Um, Maybe invest in that, 19-year-old that's a pain in your butt right now. They might end up growing up to be still with the company over 10 years later and loving what they do.
Yeah, not the first time in the last couple of weeks I've heard something like that because we keep seeing that there are so many tech solutions out there to like automate things and to make stuff, just simpler and more efficient. But the one thing that you can't automate is human connection. And like you can't automate installation of a project, you can't automate creating something. People have to do that. And if you don't invest in your people, they're not going to be able to do that kind of stuff for you or serve the customer. So it's there also like you never know who's going to be your next strategic leader within your company. I mean, I joke that I got hired at Engage to do sales I was hired as an account executive back in 2019. Now I run the marketing department.
Yeah.
So you never know. And I have degrees in opera performance. I don't make any sense to be running an marketing department. You started off as a 19-year-old in events, and now look
Yeah.
at you. Yeah, no, I that's one cool thing about home improvement though, is in home improvement and in the companies that serve home improvement, everybody's got a really interesting background. They just come from all different places and they can do what makes them happy.
Our CEO said this a while ago, and it will always stick with me. It made me laugh because it's true. No one ever plans to go into the home improvement industry. We all wind up here
I've
somehow, some
never
way.
I've never heard truer words. So with that, thank you so much for joining us today, Madison. It was great to have you on.
Thank you so much. This is so much fun.
Thanks for listening to the Engaged podcast. Be sure to visit engage.io for more information on how to create, share, and measure your way to success. If you love the Engaged podcast, we'd love for you to subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you listen to podcasts. Until next time.